Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Young Science Leader Series. Today we have two sessions. The first session is by Dr. Karthick Balasubramanian, and the evening session is quite interesting. It's going to be the career scopes in botany. It's going to be like an interactive session with all my new students. So why not to share with the world? So if you are interested to be part of the Zoom, you're welcome. Just drop me a message, so I will let you in. So that session is at 4:30. So we will cover all about what to do after an MSc in botany. Is it only PhD is an option? But of course, there are so many other options too, right? For example, science communication. So we are going to cover everything in today at 4:30. Today in the morning session is my good friend Dr. Karthik, and Karthik is working as scientist D at Agarkar Research Institute in Pune, which is an autonomous institute under Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, where he has been working since 2013. Karthik holds PhD in ecology of stream diatom communities from Central Western Ghats from Mysore University, and subsequently he worked for many years from 2004 to 2010. You see, 6 years at Center for Ecological Sciences at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. And of course, during that stint, I guess he was also part of the Shoka Trust, ATRI. He is still working with ATRI for in many of the projects, as per my understanding. And later he worked as a postdoctoral fellow at University of Colorado at Boulder in the US, plus University of Northwest University in South Africa. South Africa is also, it's a very, I'm sure that he is well versed in the flora of especially the marine diatom flora of the South Africa. And he has got more than 50 papers, but more importantly, he has been very productive, a fertile taxonomist. More than 50 new species of diatoms, including 3 new genera, and even his own name, the Karthikya. I think Karthikya. It's a new genera name on his behalf. On his name has been named by a diatomologist from Russia. I hope he is going to share all these stories today. And more importantly, Karthik is also quite fascinated with science communication in his own language, Tamil. So he writes in Tamil, especially in Tamil version of the Hindu newspaper. His articles are quite oftentimes can be seen. And he is working in Agarkar, as I told you. And I yesterday I had a word. It looks like he's also looking for a master's project student. So I hope he's going to share what he's exactly looking for. And yes, I'm also associated with Karthik on Inside COVID. That is Indian scientist responsible for COVID-19 and in many other platforms. So I'm really privileged to have you here with us, Dr. Karthik. And today with me, co-moderator of this session is Ms. Shruti. Shruti's name is very common here in YSL. She has been moderating many sessions, and she is basically from mixed legacy, just like Karthik and me. She is also from South, from Kerala and Tamil Nadu. And yes, she can speak both the languages plus Marathi. And right now she's working in Biocon, but soon to be relocated to US, I guess, right? Over to you, Shruti.
Thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure co-moderating the session, and I have read, sir, that you have worked extensively with diatoms. So I would really like to know its significance. I mean, what is so special about it through your talk? Looking forward to see. Thank you.
Thanks, Shruti, and thanks, Felix. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So there is no. It's going to be 30 minutes of my story, and then 30 minutes of we can discuss, and so how I came, and then how I came to research and my journey for last 15 years. That's what I'm going to share today with all of you. So there is no PowerPoint or nothing. It's going to be, I'm just going to talk like this. Average student till my 10th standard, like not average, below average. So one of the reason why I got and I'm very bad at mathematics. So obviously after my 10th standard, I chose to go for a science group. Uh, in Tamil Nadu, there is one group called science group. It's like you have two language, and then you have physics, chemistry, and botany, zoology. So this in any school you will have science group, but there will be very less number of people will be there in the science group. Very and it's kind of you don't do mathematics, so you are always discriminated, and you are always seen as something below than the normal students. So but that so we have a extra class for botany and zoology that happens in the laboratory. So we don't have a separate class because always it will be a less students. In our routine class there will be 30-40 members. In the science class there will be hardly 8 or 10 members will be there. So there is no need for a separate classroom, so we will be in the lab. So that's a bless. So we get to interact with the the previous year students herbarium sheets. And then you have a lot of these animals are preserved in the formaldehyde those days. So and then teacher will be also very, it's not just routinely this teaching for 45 minutes and going. So we have some extra hours, so teachers will be very friendly talking to us. And there was one teacher called Tyagarajan. He's a teacher now also in my place in Rasipuram in Tamil Nadu. So he used to be very friendly, and he used to talk, and he used to share his field experiences, where during his master's days, where they went to college for field collections about herbariums and things like that. So uh, then he never teaches. He never teach standing in front of the board and making this floral diagram and all those things. He will bring one banana and then teach about musaceae that day. So that's how, what you see here. He will come with a banana leaf in his hand to the class, and then he will make all these things. So which made me to get into more subject. So I was a below average, and then when I passed out my masters, I was 98 or 99% in my botany and zoology. So that's the, I think my first turning point is my botany teacher in 11th and 12th standard. And so uh, then I went to do my bachelor's in microbiology. So I joined the class, and then anyhow, I didn't have enough score luckily to become a doctor, or so I didn't join there. Then my bachelor's I joined, and then maybe within 6 months, in all our classmates, everybody was talking about some new recruit in that college. He's Dr. Vivekanandan, and he just finished JSPS, a prestigious Japanese postdoctoral fellowship. I think uh, he finished his postdoctoral 3 years in Japan, and then came there. And then he's also extremely friendly. The college which I studied was it's the KSA College of Arts and Science for my bachelor's, and it's extremely research friendly college. Then you can, being a private college, they were so supportive for research. You can make 10 agar plates more, nobody will have a check with you. Nobody is going to measure how much agar you used or what you have done. They have, and you can spend lab until 7-8 o'clock. The first a big impact on me was one day Vivekanandan sir came and told, and he shared his science direct paper. Okay, he published something on this. He said it's a there was a logo of some tree, and then somebody sitting in it's, and he gave some explanation for that. And then he told me that this is a paper I published today, Karthik. And then that was a big impact on me. And I was thinking about that paper. I don't understand what was that paper about or anything. Only thing I could see is I saw his name on the that printed name on the paper. So I think next day or like after a couple of days, I went and I told him, sir, like, sir, if I want my name like this, what I should do? So then he said, okay, you have to do some research, and then we can write it and then send it to the journal, and the journal will publish it. Then you will come. It's very interesting because it's very interesting, and today because uh, the first paper I saw was in Science Direct, in the Elsevier publications. I mean, so this was in 2000, I think in 2000 or 2001, and today I saw my name first time in the Elsevier publication. uh, After 20 years, it took 20 years. I have published many papers, but I never published in the Elsevier publication. And today, it just few minutes before I saw the paper, it came. It's the first time. It's a special day for me today. So then he gave me some. What he did was like he gave me some small project, like we will degrade oil using microbes isolated from the oil enriched soil. So I did, but I couldn't publish that. I published that in a conference, in a small conference. That was. So he he is my he was my role model, and he is my role model. So I wanted to do whatever he did. So his masters were in MSc Environmental Science. So I did my MSc Environmental Science, and in a private college again in Tamil Nadu. So uh, then I wanted to do uh, that. I wanted to do more and more research, but my during my master's time, I didn't have enough opportunity to do that. So I was so much. I want to do my master's uh, dissertation work in a very good place. That was my aim. So I want to do this. So that's, if I do that good, if I do a good project, then there is an opportunity for me to continue in that lab, or I will get a exposure on research. That was my idea. So I I applied many places, like maybe hundreds of places I applied, and then I got opportunity from Center for Ecological Sciences, Dr. T.V. Ramchandra. So so he wrote in email, he wrote to me back saying that, okay, you can come for a master's project, but there is a condition that first you need to give me a presentation on wetland. I work on wetland, so you need to give a general presentation on wetland, so you can work with me. Then I so I never this term was very new to me, because it's a wetlands are like any wetland, like water saturated environment, like lake, like swamps and mangroves there. But this term wetland was very unique to me that time. So I don't know. And during my masters, I have one teacher, like uh, uh, Miss Revati. So she's very supportive, like that time. So she told me that you go to, there is a place called Salim Ali Center for Ornithology and Natural History in Coimbatore, Sekan. There are people working on wetlands. So then after 2 days, I just took a bus and then went to Coimbatore, and then went to the second library. And there is some 3-4 racks of books in the library on wetlands. So I was ferociously taking photocopies of many many books and papers, and then I came and I printed and I started reading. And then with all this literature, I went to Bangalore and then gave a presentation. And Dr. TVR was kind of impressed, and then he told, okay, you can join. So that was another big change. He's the another big change, broad change in my life. So Dr. TVR is in Center for Ecological Sciences. He's even today, he comes to the lab by 9, and he goes from the lab by 9. Like, if he's like kind of like role model for hard work. Like, he's like extremely hardworking person. So I finished my master's, and I uh, so being in Center for Ecological Sciences is like you get an amazing exposure of various systems from elephants, frogs, fishes, and like eusocial wasps, and so on. And there are you have like uh, teachers like Professor Raghavendra Gadekar. uh, I with being a student there, like you get an opportunity to listen to the like stalwarts like Raghavendra Gadekar. Once I was attending a talk of Professor RG, Raghavendra Gadekar is called as RG. So that talk kind of like usually you in the talk, people give some slide, and then something, you don't know something, and like so on. Professor RG's talk is like he's a kind of a magician. Like he will uh, he will he will take everybody in the audience, control of like everybody's audience, and then we are into his story. Like it's like that. You forget yourself, and then like you listen to him. So these are the life changing moments. Like even I want, like, first was like I want to be a teacher by seeing my 12th standard teacher, and then during my masters, like I want to write a paper like this. And then Professor RG, you see, and then he's like, I want to talk like this. So these are the people we have in front of us to do. uh, and I will recommend Professor RG writes in Resonance last I think few issues, more than 10 issues on animal experiments. Even though I think here that most, I don't know about the audience, but most of the audience are working in plant science, I think. But his experiment, that way he writes, and then all those experiment and all those box information, it's it's uh, it will help us in any experiments what we are doing. And also recently Professor RG is also writing on Science Wire, so it's very good. Like you can I will recommend everybody to read that. And this is the and another one thing which I which during this time which caught me is like editorial which comes in current science. So I got a kind of addicted to the current science editorial, and the main reason for that is uh, Professor Balram. When current science is there in online, so you can go back and read in that 2005 till like 10, many issue has Professor Balram's editorial. So every time when we read those editorial, like it will be for sure you will know many words, new words, and then uh, we'll forget ourselves. Like again, I'll just say, like it's kind of mesmerizing or like enchanting, those kind of things. Like you can, how do people write like this? So it's so so it will keep you under those writings will keep you like captive. Like you just keep one very good example is if you see the last issue of Current Science, Professor Balram wrote about Professor Satish Dhawan, who's the who made who was long time director for Indian Institute of Science. He shared his experience with Professor Satish Dhawan. I will recommend everybody to read that. Like I think Professor Balram mentioned that like for many months he was there without lab space and any equipment also. Like when we think about IIC, we always think that it's going to be great place, there is everything, but it's not so. Like every place have its own uh, you know like limitations. So it's a very great game changers my time at Center for Ecological Sciences. So I was there for immediately after that I cleared my NET in lectureship in environment science. Because again, thanks to Center for Ecological Sciences, because the library is so amazing. It's a small library, but it's a complete library in terms of ecology. So you take some books and then you don't you just flip through the pages. Like that's what happened. I think that helped me to clear my that NET exam, because you don't when we I would I would not recommend to buy this this ready-made question banks and all those things. It's not going to help. uh, but when we read books, we can read it like a story books, because once we get into what is mentioned in those books, then we can easily it's easy to write an exam, like objective type exam, than memorizing and things like that. It's not going to help anyway. So so I cleared my exam. So I got into uh, studying. My project was studying water quality of like 5 rivers in central Western Ghats, particularly Shimoga and Uttarakhand districts of Karnataka. It's an amazing, beautiful place in terms of like understanding. I basically come from a like less rainfall zone to like extremely high rainfall zone. Sometimes I was shocked by seeing amount of water and the rain continuously pouring like anything. And so I was studying water quality, and then the microbiologist inside accidentally like oh, the microbiologist inside me woke up, and then I accidentally want to when I was collecting water, I want to check what are these the brown color thing on the stones. So I picked some stones and took it back to Bangalore and looked at the microscope, and then this was amazingly beautiful organisms. I don't know what was that like that time. Then I did some literature search and all those things, and then I found that they are diatoms, and from that day there is no looking back. I am into diatoms. So Shruti have mentioned that I will also tell about diatoms. Yeah, diatoms are one of algae, and a group of like golden brown algae because of their pigmentation. They make 25% of oxygen. Yeah, I repeat, they make 25% of oxygen. That means every fourth breath which we take, oxygen comes exclusively from diatoms. So I tell all my students that when we go to bed, we thank for giving food to our parents or whatever. So I think we should also thank for oxygen to diatom. We should thank diatoms every day. So after that, I started I decided that it took me from this point to get my to start my PhD took me 2 years. Then I was continuously reading on diatoms, and then I found out this amazing person called Gandhi. None of my talk will be complete without mentioning Professor H.P. Gandhi from Junagadh, Gujarat. So I will share a link of my podcast about Gandhi and about his work to Felix, and he will share it on the group, so you all can listen to that podcast. So that will cover whatever Gandhi's contribution to Indian science, and then the person himself. So so after that, I was into diatoms, and then so I met Gandhi, and then I brought all his collection to me. So in the podcast, we will you will listen, you will know how all this thing happen. Felix, am I good on time? Shruti?
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, how much time I left?
It is approaching 30 minutes, but it doesn't matter. Let us go on this story, your story, for like up to 11:40. Then we can start discussion. Okay.
Okay.
So you have like 10 more minutes to go.
So then these collections, my aim to bring that collection was to make use those as a reference collection for the country, because we don't have a datum collection. So my idea is to save those collections and use those collections for a reference collection for the because it's our nation's heritage and our nation's property. So that was my aim, and that's the time where I started my work on taxonomic work on diatom. So even though I was my PhD is on ecology, so when you do ecology, you need to know taxonomy well, but like our understanding of Indian diatoms taxonomy is very limited. So uh, so ecologist has to go to become a taxonomist, and taxonomist after some time he will want to know where the species thrive and what is their interaction with other species and things like that. So you will become ecologist. So it's like that's what happening to me. So my PhD was on ecology, like how the diatoms change seasonally in the mountain streams of Western Ghats, and what is the impact of land use change on diatom community. So all this thing I these were the part of my thesis, and then most of this work have limited application because of less understanding of taxonomy at that point. So then I decided to work on taxonomy. Then from 2010 till I think after that I went to University of Colorado Boulder to work with Professor JP Kosialik, my great mentor and my teacher and my friend on diatom taxonomy, everything. So I was there in University of Colorado Naturalistic Museum for 2 years, and we were working on diatom taxonomy. And followed by I went to Northwest University to work on Cholnoki's collection. Cholnoki is another great diatomist from Africa. He did a lot of work on Africa, so he's like the Gandhi of Africa. Mm. So I worked there. Then I came to Agarkar Research Institute in 2013. From then, I was working on a taxonomy of diatoms of Western Ghats and Northeast India, and using diatom for water quality monitoring and also like past environmental reconstruction. And I also trained students and professionals, particularly forensic professionals, for diatom identification. And we also use molecular tools to understand the phylogeny, genetics, and then biogeography of diatoms. So after coming here, after coming to ARI, all my work was supported by my students, like Radhakrishnan. He works on taxonomy, and then Mittal Thakkar, she works on reconstruction of past climate using diatom, particularly last 10,000 years. And then Vignation work on using diatom for water quality monitoring. And Neha works on all the molecular and culturing of diatom. And apart from that, we have Yogesh and Kokila, Samadhan, they all work on Northeast and then curating all the diatom collection in our lab. So so our lab is like extremely friendly lab. We don't have and so we prefer mostly prefer people from a different part of the country to be in our lab, and from so we have more diverse. So we feel more diverse have more strength. So, and we are blessed to be in India because we have so much cultural diversity to understand and enjoy. So that's our lab culture and things like that. And we all support women in science and technology, and I encourage all my students to read outside the subject. So you can read in regional language, like whatever your language, and I also encourage them to write in your language, like or English, whichever whatever you're comfortable in. Because communicating science to the public is very very important. We have to we are using taxpayers money to do our science. So maybe something like in information of a new species is not going to be great value to a common man, but information on diatom is a really great information to. So it will be helpful to them to uh, 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 even to conserve a small pond or a lake in their neighborhood, which is so I feel like communicating science is very important. And we also do a lot of environmental education program, particularly with the school kids. So this year we couldn't do much of it. Like we use diatoms as a tool to teach environmental awareness. So our lab, we mainly work, for us, like diatom is our pillar, and we tie, like we work many field around diatoms in our lab. And we also give uh, students training on diatom taxonomy and ecology in our lab. So anybody who are interested in learning diatom taxonomy, they are very welcome to come to our lab. So I'm ready to take questions, like anything, any discussion or anything. And thank you. Felix?
Yes. Over to Shruti. Would you like to say some words before I start?
Yes, sir. So, yeah, it was quite interesting to see. I had some net issues, so I couldn't hear few. But yes, I would like to summarize on your talk. So, yeah, so I really like the transition from you being a below average student and how you scored like 98, 99% in your botany zoology that you mentioned. So, and it like you I remember you mentioning teaching being an unconventional teaching, which is not typical like which is explained in the board. So where your professor used to teach, bring in some materials from the field itself. Banana leaf you mentioned, it's anatomy maybe he was explaining. So I think that is very important, and I think it's more practiced in abroad rather than the conventional thing. Because if you see anything practically, then you can remember it even more better rather than a theoretical thing. So yeah, and I also believe in going with the flow, like taking inspiration with people. If anybody is better than you, so it has been a practice in you also. If somebody speaks very well, so can I be in that way, or can I be better than that person? Like with respect to talking, also with respect to publishing paper. So I think it's more important to meet someone who is better than you, so that it can progress your own life in that way. So yeah, and I also agree with you in this point that I've always seen that people mostly, especially in the competitive exams like GATE and all that, just people are only focused on getting the scores. So they just refer to the MCQs and whatever guide is available. You can get the score. You can qualify, but I also agree to it that we need to refer a core book. Like for example, for biochemistry, Leninger is taught. It's said to be Bible of biochemistry, but people hardly read that, and they rely on like MCQ books. But so in that, what happens is people lack that basic knowledge. So even if that interview is there, they know something from like what I can say, just a cover page. There is no depth in that. So that is lacking nowadays. So I really agree on that, that we should refer to the main books. So yeah, I could know a few interesting points about diatoms. Like I think you mentioned like 25% of oxygen comes from diatoms. I think it produces that, and I could also know that 20% of total carbon fixation and 40% of marine productivity is from diatoms.
From that.
Yeah, and yeah, so it's great that you try to explore about the ecology of diatoms, which are less explored in India. I mean, with respect to its morphology, anatomy, and how it is creating. And I mean, I think diatom can be used as a mapping for the climate change. Maybe the structure or something changes with respect to temperature. I mean, the environmental factors. So yeah, apart from your regular training activity, I think you conduct different trainings for the outsiders and different students, like diatom identification, the phylogeny, geography, diversity, yeah, your environmental educational program, and so on. And yeah, last but not the least, it's great that your lab has a diversity and you support diversity of people, and you encourage more women in research. So yeah, so I think that I think I've covered almost the summary. So I could see one question.
Sure.
Can you please tell me how you approached for a postdoc in abroad after your PhD?
Okay, it's a very good question. So I would so when you are doing PhD, you must have done. This is what I tell my students. So when you are doing PhD, you must have done review of literature, right? So from the day one of your PhD, you will start reading papers. Uh, so a simple thing I tell students is like there are 52 weeks in a year. So in the first year, you need to read at least 52 papers. In the second year of PhD, you double it. In the third year of your PhD, you triple it. So that's the simple target. Like, you know, if you, so it's like you will read like so much 300 plus paper. So by the time when you are close to completing your PhD, these are the top 5 people in this field. So I want to go to these people lab for my PhD, for my postdoc. Sorry. So that's the thing. So I will ask them to encourage them that you start communicating with them in at least a year before. So when you are going for a postdoc, there is a two way of getting funding. One is the your postdoc mentor have a project, so you can join there as a postdoctoral fellow in that project, which is very uh, you know very rare these days because of limited funding. And then other thing is you get your own funding and then approach the mentor. I'm getting this. I have this idea, and I'm going to apply for this so and so funding. If I get I will be. I want to work with you. So so that's the approach we can have. So I would recommend students should think about your postdoctoral lab five at least at least 6 months before your submission. So you together make a proposal and then submit to different funding not Indian funding agency. There are so many other funding agencies. There are international funding agencies there. So that's how we can approach postdoc. It's not like you are done with the PhD and something and you go somewhere and do completely something. Like if it is, I would recommend not to continue your PhD work for your postdoc, but you need to have some linkage between your PhD work and postdoc work. Maybe the system can be different. The questions are similar or same, are the same questions, and different questions in the same system. So something like that.
Sir, to just add on to the question, I mean, how to approach for the fellowship? I mean, from what is the source from where we can get? I mean, get a fellowship if I'm trying to apply in the abroad.
So
Like,
it depends on, like, if you are trying to do somewhere in Europe, one option is like Marie Curie fellowships, and then Humboldt fellowships, and there are many other fellowships, Newton Bauer fellowship if you're doing for the UK, and then there are Fulbright if you're trying for uh, US. So it's more country specific or like regional, continental specific. So
so is there
uh,
any common platform wherein we can get the information? I mean, a website or something where we'll be getting the updates. I mean, when to apply and all that.
So there is no common platform, but like India Bioscience website have most of the fellowships are listed in there. So I think this week also India Bioscience have released a booklet on list of fellowships available for PhD students and then even postdoctoral students from within the country. Apart from that, like the India Bioscience website have most of the fellowships and then funding opportunity for students, faculty, everybody, it is there. You can check in India Bioscience. If you give in Google, you will get that website.
Yeah, the India Bioscience Smita was part of our YS a long time back. I mean, in the initial days, and yeah, they did a very good job on collating all the information in the form of a booklet. But again, Shruti, it is not possible because the supervisors keep on getting grants, and new postdoc positions are keep on coming up. So putting all together, like, of course, it's possible with well-known government postdoc schemes like JSPS that Karthik was mentioning, or Humboldt. Again, the Humboldt is now closed because India is no more categorized as a developing country, you see, and India opted out of that. So the German government is no more recognizing India as one of the beneficiaries of their help. So nobody can now get the Humboldt fellowship. That was one of the prestigious postdoc fellowship earlier open to the Indians. Now it is we cannot apply for it. But anyway, all this named fellowship, it's possible because the deadline, it's a recurring deadline, you see. So portals like India Bioscience, they do an excellent job. Even my own curiosity, I also try to cover as much as possible the new calls. But a comprehensive place where every single such fellowships are possible, it's not possible. I mean, that is not practical too, because PIs keep on applying for new grants. For example, if I write, or Karthik write a new grant for diatoms from Antarctica, for example, and he got it, and then in that case a new position will be open up, right? So then he will be locally advertising, and he will be pinging this advertisement in well-known portals. So that way we can do it, but unfortunately we don't really have that mechanism, and that is also not that practical, you see. And to make the general comment about Karthik presentation, it was really fantastic, Karthik, and yeah, your journey of your life is really amazing. You covered everything. Yeah, and today is also a quite special day. I don't know you celebrate or not, yes, but traditionally today is Karthika. So the day for Karthik. And yes, on this day of Karthika, you also got a paper. Congratulations for it. It's a double treat that you all of us. And yeah, long time back we had a talk about Gandhi, and yes, you mentioned the Gandhi. I remember one of the book which I read long time back. It is one of the life-changing book is Tuesdays with Maury. There is a very interesting book by Mitch Albom. So the book is all about the final days of an old man, the conversation a young man had with an old man. The old man is in his deathbed. So similarly, I think that you shared that story about sunset days of Gandhi, and how he actually kind of like awakened from his subconscious dream when you
Yeah.
started speaking about diatom. Could you please share that story once again?
Yeah. So I went to meet Gandhi in from Bangalore. I went to Junagadh. So so they say his Gandhi is like very famous diatomist. He described more than 300 species of diatoms from different part of the Western India, from Rajasthan till Karnataka. So, and he was not a faculty in a university or anywhere. He was like a simple college teacher. So he was a simple college teacher. So he was doing all this work on his own funding. Like he didn't take even a single rupee from any funding agency or anything like that. So I went to see him, and then he's like in bedridden condition because he had a lot of issue with his back and like many parts of his body. So they said like his son and then his daughter-in-law and said like he lost all his memory. He cannot talk or anything. He didn't speak for like few years. So I went there to get all my datum identified. That's why I went there. Like I have so much sample and somebody need to identify my sample. So I went there, and then so I went with the computer, and then like I sat next to him, and then I kind of lost hope, because how this man is going to identify, because he's in a bedridden condition. And they also said like there is no, he's not talking and things. So after maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, my computer screensaver was all that connected to my images in my the microscope image in my computer. So this image started coming on the screen one by one. Then he started telling something, and then his granddaughter came and asked like told her father that his our grandfather started speaking. So they all went and asked him like what were you talking, like they're not understanding anything, like what were you talking. Then I went and I just looked up, and then I saw him like he is telling the name of each diatom when the each one when they transit, like after like 5 seconds everything when they move, no? So I told him he don't have memory loss, he don't have Alzheimer. They were telling like he might be having Alzheimer. I said like he have memory, better memory than all our 6 people memories together. so so uh so that's how like that was some kind of like very inspiring thing, like at the age of he's in his deathbed, and he's just thinking about diatom all his time, like 24/7, like he's just so passionate about diatoms all his time. And I will share the podcast link, and then I request all the students to listen to this, because it's like I can talk about Gandhi for like next 6 hours or 10 hours. So there's so much to be told about this amazing person which we don't know. He's like really an unsung hero. So I will share the link, and then you all can listen to that. Like, and one thing when uh, uh, Felix was mentioning about the book. So before joining my PhD, I had some kind of dilemma, because my PhD registration was getting delayed by 3 months, then 6 months, and then 8 months, and then 1 year, and then 2 years. So between my master's and registration of PhD, I think I had like almost like 2.5 years. So in between I had like some kind of like I think I should not be in research. Maybe I should look for some environmental consultancy job or something like that. I was in kind of some dilemma, because you have financial pressure from family and things like that. Like, so that time I accidentally my friend Sudhira, he gave me this book called Siddhartha by Herman Hesse. I would recommend everybody to read that book. It's like really that book will make you calm, and it's kind of make a lot of clarity in your thinking, like and I remember I read that book in maybe in overnight. Like I started that book at 6-7 o'clock, and then I finished like morning 6 o'clock or something like that. And another one book I would say is Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which is both are like almost same book, like, but I enjoyed reading these two books very much in terms of philosophical outline, I'd say.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I also read this Siddhartha of late, few months back, and it was really interesting. I also wrote, the review of the book in my blog. So yeah, and one of the participant, Akila, she was asking like how to, which is a group, because Karthik said that he will ping me the podcast. I'm going to share that in the group. So as you know, the Young Academy of Sciences, we have got Young Academy of India. We have got two groups. One is Google group, which is a forum. Plus, we also have the Facebook group. Okay, so I'm going to share all these things in both the groups. So in case you're not a member of our group, please subscribe to our group. You just go to the Young Academy of India website and just scroll down. You will see all the links. The 3 links are there. So subscribe to our Google group to get the email, subscriptions, plus the Facebook group. We have well over 4,000 members in that Facebook group. So we will share, all these pertinent infos over there. And yes, so Karthik, so yeah, diatom seems to be very interesting. That I remember that one of the sessions that you had in our university, it was a physical session that in a refresher program that you asked all of the participants to inhale and exhale. Then you made a startling revelation that the diatoms actually make almost half of the oxygen in the air that we breathe. It's really interesting, that not many people are aware that marine, microscopic plants like diatoms and cyanobacteria, phytoplanktons are really, the oxygen factories of the world. So diatom is also used in medical forensics. Can you just throw some light on it?
Yeah. Diatoms are used in a forensic application, which is like it's called diatom test. So it's used for confirming the death by drowning cases. If a person um, uh, jump into a lake or a river, so they inhale water, they inhale diatoms, and then so the diatoms will be there in their body parts, internal parts. And so when we during the post-mortem analysis, we'll be finding diatom in the internal. So that is considered as person who when they came in contact with the water, they were alive, and then they struggled, and then they drank a lot of water. Sometimes what happened, usually when somebody kills somebody and then they throw the body in a lake or a river, so those after death they will not take a lot of water, so you don't find water reaching and diatom reaching all the internal body parts. So that is considered as negative. So that's a this test is known as diatom test, and it's used very commonly even till today in across all over the world. So that's why we train people from forensic lab for identification of diatoms.
Yeah, very interesting. This test has been used even in Shopian, the
Yeah.
rape case, and lots of things are. I mean, it's very, very interesting. And even, even if one person is drowned in a lake, and after post-mortem, the dead body is taken and put in a different lake, and still, the DNA barcode-based assessment or the morphology, I don't know,
Yeah.
can reveal all these facets, isn't it, Karthik?
Yeah. So one of my teacher from Japan, Professor Shigeki Mayama, so he did one case on somebody killed somebody in the forest and then threw the body in a SUV. So the police was not knowing where the murder happened. So they know this body, somebody killed and threw the dead body in the lagoon, and they recovered, and they don't know where the real the crime in the scene of crime. So then they took the and then they show it to Professor Mayama, and then he identified these diatoms as epibryophytic diatoms, which is like diatoms growing on the mass. So this so then he gave the police inspector that this murder happened in a forested place where there are a lot of moisture is there, so the mass can grow. Then the police started in the vicinity, started looking at the forest where it's there in like 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer radius, and then with that they exactly located the crime scene. This is one case, and the other case is like which is very, very famous case in United States, where the police recovered diatoms from the shoes of the victims, and also of the person who committed the crime, and then they recovered the same diatoms in the crime scene. So they matched that these two persons were located in this place by the in this place. So I will also share that that case is available in YouTube. So I will also share that with Felix, so you can share it with you also. You can watch those things.
Yeah, fantastic. You see that such a small microscopic organisms like diatoms finding use in medical forensics to prove or disprove the rape and murder scenes. So,
Yeah,
that kind of
and just
curiosity too.
just to add a little more on that, like, so actually the dynamite, which was invented by Alfred Nobel, it's diatomaceous earth plus the chemicals used for making the explosive chemical. So the Nobel family made a lot of money selling this dynamite, and then there was a lot of criticism because it's used for a lot of in the warfare and things like that. So it's told that Nobel was very unhappy because he invented it for the welfare of the human, but it's used in the warfare. So most of the money which came uh, uh, to to them was from selling dynamite. So those money was put for making the Nobel Foundation. So we can proudly say that, like, behind every Nobel Prize there is a contribution of diatoms are there in that.
That's very interesting. Yes. Yeah. So that is very pertinent question here. The scientist, recently I was actually a part of a conference. It's a AAAS conference, and one of the participants was saying an analogy that scientists can only say what will happen if you jump from fifth floor of a tall building. Probability is very high that you will die, but scientists can never say don't jump, because that is up to you to jump or not to jump. That doesn't come in the purview of the sciences. The same thing with the Nobel, what Nobel did, how to make use of the discovery. All these things are really complex, the concepts of the ethics, which is directly linked with the value system, you know. And yes, so you said about current science. Yeah, only very few of the Indian scientists, every week, every fortnight, read thoroughly the current science. And even recently, when of my own piece came in, you're the first one who pinged me that your article appeared in the current science.
So
So,
I kind of addicted to current science because it comes in 10th and 25th of every month, but the online comes like maybe sometime 2 days before, 1 day before, or like sometime 3 days before. So from 7th onwards I will start looking at the current science. So it's the great thing about the current science is, like, one paper will be on plant, next paper will be on chemistry, the next paper will be on it's a multidisciplinary science journal. And current science also have a lot of historical notes comes in. I'm always interested in history of science. So uh, it's a as a student, the first, you don't have to go through the, like, really hardcore science part, like technical papers, but that editorial is it's common to anybody can read it. And the research news section, it tells about, like, what are the research happening recently. Research news section tells, and sometime also there will be opinion piece will be there, which is, like, really really very good, by written by many scientists about their opinion towards some recent happening. And as I mentioned, the historical notes are, like, I love the historical notes. And for particularly for students who are looking for JRF positions and then other funding opportunity, the last sections of current science usually carry these advertisements. It'll have from the only place where you see a JRF advertisement to a director advertisement. So you will find everything in the current science. And it comes from Indian Academy of Sciences from Bangalore. And one more journal which from the same academy is Resonance. It's for mainly focused for college students. It's uh, all articles are like when they write this all article, it's kept, like, college students as the target audience. So it's a really good opportunity for a biologist to know non-biologist thing, and the non-biologist to know the biologist thing. So please read Resonance. It's also both these journals are freely available. So
yeah, so yeah, exactly that he was telling about the current science and the current science. Yes, it's really, really important that as an Indian, I think this is one of the best journal available, interdisciplinary journal. I cannot name a single journal other than current science. And their editorial policies are really stringent and very good quality articles, and especially the current science editorial. And I guess it's Prasad is from the Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, right? In Earth Sciences, he is the chief editor right now. Am I right, Karthik? Is it Prasad? Is the editor, right?
yeah, I think right now Professor S.K. Satish is the editor.
Satish. Yes, Satish is the
S.K.
editor.
Satish
Yes.
from Center
S.K.
for
Satish.
Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences.
Exactly. And it's a very good, and I totally agree with that. We as an Indian, I think we all have to read it, at least the current science, what the editorial says, and the
And
kind of like.
you can start with this 10th November issue, which is dedicated to Professor Satish Dhawan and his contribution to science. So there are many articles about Professor Satish Dhawan. Is that it's a one-stop place to know how great visionary this person is.
Fantastic. And the youngsters, especially the young scientists, this forum is mainly for the young scientists, young science leaders. And the young scientists, especially from premier institutes, we have kind of a fallacy in our mind that publishing an article in an international journal, which is not Indian, is better. The Indian journals are inferior. So many top scientists have extensively written about it. For example, Lakotia from BHU, he has even published a white paper in the INSA website about this fallacy. And even this dichotomy itself is false, international and national. So, for example, for Indians, publishing in Canadian Journal of Potato Research, for example, is an international journal. But publishing in Indian Journal of Marine Sciences, or it's a national. So that kind of dichotomy makes no sense really. Even but when the employers recruit the applicants, they won't do that. They fall prey for this fallacy. What is your thought about it?
So it's a first I would say, if you want to know your subject to be reaching a greater audience, particularly Indian audience, and I think current science is the best place to publish it. And then the second part of questions, what about Indians publishing in other subjects? So it's a in my subject, I would say that if I'm publishing on some taxonomy subject, there is not a good place to publish in India. If there is something, I would be happy to publish there first thing. So, and from the current science scope, they cannot publish taxonomic papers and things like that. So if there is an opportunity, definitely I would encourage everybody to publish in Indian journal. And then second thing, it's also what from even though Professor Lakotia and many people in the NIA in the INSA have written a report on and this same report is concised and got published in Current Science again with Professor Lakotia and Professor Amitabh Joshi from JNCSR and from PRL, I forgot his name. So they all published this. So if the system don't see that international and national paper, then I think there is no hindrance in people from publishing an national and international journal. And as a young fellows who are the audience in this thing, I would recommend not to at this stage not to discriminate or not to separate it and see that it's a national journal or international journal. At this stage, the most important thing at this stage is getting your research published in a good peer-reviewed place and not in a predatory journal. So that is the most important thing at this stage. You get your paper published in a really good place, which is having good peer review system and good editorial policy, and there is no predatory information, and if possible, and I will also say not with the article processing charge.
Yes. Yeah, that's very, very important thing. Article processing charge is is something like patenting or IPR. The issue is really complicated. I don't want to dwell more into it, but yes, publishing in top journals should be the priority of all the young scientists in the country. And for that, I think better than impact factor would be a ranked journal. Rankings of the field. For example, you are working in the Diatom, which is a top journal in the world. Try to aim to publish in that journal, isn't it? Don't you agree with that?
Exactly. So if I'm looking at taxonomy, I would go for the best journal is European Journal of Phycology or Phycologia, so something like that, which
Journal of
should have.
Phycology. Yeah. Yeah. So another question in my mind is that because you were saying about the Gandhi, and he was not really supported with the grants. He was actually into kind of a parallel college, and still he was very, very fertile taxonomist. So do you think that the best things that comes out of this curiosity-driven research is self-driven? That if you're supported by money, then you tend to work kind of like money corrupts you, that kind of a philosophical mindset. So if you're, for example, in my case, I'm making a lot of videos in the YouTube, and I feel that of course I don't get any money from that because it's completely ad free. So sometimes I feel that if I'm doing something for just for like hobby's sake, that actually result in a much better quality rather than if I'm working for somebody else with some money, earning some money, then somehow I kind of like take it for granted. I don't know. So do you agree with this point that if you're actually doing something? I know that there are several taxonomists who started their work. One good example would be Mary Ann. One I think she was a Scottish lady of the 17th century. She has discovered so many fossils in the Scottish Highlands. So she was not supported with anything, just a hobbyist, isn't it? And also this several the butterfly watching or bird watching clubs do publish quality publications too, spotting of the things. So that is the citizen science. What are your thoughts about this point? And also I want to know, because as you are a taxonomist, is there any scarcity in taxonomy funding in the country?
So first part of question, so either you are doing a research by funded project or by yourself, the first power to pull your research is your interest, and you should be self-driven. So that's the most important thing, I would say. Another one, we can tell many examples, like most of our great scientists, our country, they are all self-driven. They were not doing research for because they got funding or something. So anything has to be first self-driven. That dream should be there inside you, that's what the energy. So the rest all is supporting things. The rest all just it's not a fuel. That self-driven is a fuel. Rest all support the the vehicle to move. So that it has to be self-driven. And hobby as science and science as hobby, yes, true, because if it's something very close to our heart, we will work more than getting instruction and doing something. Again, I'll go back to Professor Raghavendra Gadekar had written about I think in Resonance on how to do science as a hobby and hobby as a science. So it's a wonderful article. He was a microbiologist turned into a behavioral ecologist. Basically, he was looking at the wasp nest in his college, and then he got the studying the wasp become his hobby, and later he converted his hobby into his science. So I will also share that article. It's a wonderful article to read. Please read that. And Felix, sorry, I forgot the third question. What was it?
Yeah, third question is about the scarcity of funds. Is there any scarcity in taxonomy field?
In taxonomy, yeah. So because I want to thanks for asking me this question. I want to document this. Like currently, people are most of the young students are more more moved towards the methods than the questions. So that's why you have they think identifying a plant or identifying an animal looking at a morphology, they think it is inferior when compared to identifying the same with the extracting a DNA and then uh, using using uh, a molecular approach that have it's just a technique. You don't have to molecular uh, methods are just a technique. It's like a microscopy, it's like a herbarium technique, it's a another one technique. So you should be driven by question rather than the uh, tools. So tools are towards your question, not the other way around. Like your questions are not for tools. So that's the reason why we have very less number of taxonomists, young taxonomists coming towards the taxonomy subject. And another one reason is like our taxonomy is also taught very dry subject in our colleges and things like that. Yeah, this is you just remember this, or you just muck it up and then tell it, like that is the first place where we are degrading our taxonomy. So taxonomy is it can be taught in a very, very enterprising way. Just you need to have a good taxonomist to teach that. Otherwise, if somebody else who don't have interest in taxonomy, they will just make it like a very bad dry subject. But it's the most interesting subject, I would suggest. So that these are the problem why we have less number of taxonomists.
Excellent point. I'm just going through the chat box of the YouTube. Currently, many people are watching. And one, Mr. Vivek Kumar Nair is also saying that I also worked under Professor T.V. Ramachandran at IAC Bangalore. See that world is a small place.
Yeah.
Over to you, Ms. Shruti. Would you like to add some points?
Yeah, I mean, some questions are there. So Sharon is asking how to seek passionate mentors to guide in the journey of science, because I think you have met many passionate people. So she wants to also find some passionate mentors. And what is the advice that you would give to people? I mean, the students who are pursuing masters and who want to do PhD.
Okay, so I think I used to ask this question with my lab senior, Dr. Ahalya. So she gave me only one advice, which is like how to become. She's so passionate about her work. So she worked on bioabsorption of heavy metals. So I used to ask her, like, what is it? So she used to tell me that you just keep reading and you will find your passion. So if you don't read, you are searching for your passion in nowhere. So you just keep reading. That's what you are going to help you to shape your thinking, shape your everything related to research. And once I think this path is clear, then we will be end up in having a passionate towards our subject and then a good mentor also.
And many people are having this doubt about internship opportunities in your field of research. I think many are asking how to approach for this internship.
Okay, so I just mentioned, Felix, that I have maybe 2 or 3 master's project students I can take for minimum 5 to 6 months would be better to do work on some uh, taxonomy and environmental related subject. So please write to me at uh, uh, I think my email will be shared here, no, Felix?
I think he's not there.
So I can Felix can share my email, or you can check the website in that picture. I have mentioned about my website address, so you can find my email, and it's karthickbala@aripune.org. So in ARI Pune website also you can get my email address. And so I'm looking for students who want to work on diatom taxonomy, or like diatom application of diatom in environmental monitoring, like archaeology. So we have different subjects using diatom. So please feel free to write, and then we can talk and narrow down a project on mutual interest. So I have only maybe 2 or 3 projects available. Vacancies are there.
Okay, and
Yeah,
one
I
more
was.
question.
Yes, Sudhi.
Yeah. So one more question asked was, how can diatoms be used to restore environmental pollution?
Okay, so in any given place, when we collect diatom, we get at least, in the worst scenario, 10 species, or like in a good place, you'll get like 60, 70 species also. So diatoms are very particular about their environmental setup. So they prefer, even a small change is there, they won't survive there. So we can use, when we take a sample and when we list the species and their abundance, we can reconstruct the environment. Based on that, we will tell, like, what is the environmental condition, what is the pH, what is the nutrient status. It's easy to tell.
Because I read one article that diatoms can be used as a filtration tool, like as a bioremediation thing. So I think the question is related to that, how it can be used for like
Okay.
cleanup and all that.
So since a diatom use up, they require NNP as their source. They need these nutrients for their growth. So large scale diatoms are also used to removal of nutrients and as a bioremediation techniques.
Yeah, yesterday also I was speaking. We had it was actually a TEDx talk that is soon to be relayed. So I was just thinking I was emphasizing on why a negative approach instead of polluting and taking everything for granted and looking for bioremediation at the later stage. I think we have to change our perspective. We have to stop polluting. That small step, baby step. If we take many of this, even bioremediation itself is it's needless, I would say. Isn't it? I was in the kitchen, sorry, I couldn't get back to you. You asked about your email address. Yeah, I can share it. It's basically, it's very easy to remember. You are a diatomologist at gmail.com, something like that, right?
Diatomist@gmail.com.
Yeah, diatomist@gmail.com. It's very, very easy to remember. It's a very interesting, unique email address that he got it. And yeah, so I can see that there is one more guy here, and he's Dr. Let me check out. His name is Dr. Nisar Ahmad Ghani. He's also looking for a position in your lab. He has a PhD in limnology, it seems. Anyway, all of you, whoever interested to work with Dr. Karthik, welcome to contact him.
Please write to me.
Diatomist@gmail.com. So before going, because you are also a good communicator in Tamil, so could you please share some of your thoughts about it and why it's important to communicate in the local language, regional language?
Yeah. So during my PhD time, obviously, like, I would tell my student also that PhD time is like, most we will be most emotionally, physically, financially weak time because of work, and you don't get fellowship on time, and there are so much things, are like so much stress. So I started writing in Tamil Wikipedia at that time. I started writing Tamil Wikipedia just to come out of my my work related things. So this 1 hour I won't think about anything about my PhD work or other things. So night, usually like 9 to 10, I just write Tamil Wikipedia. It just kind of it kind of made me calm, that you don't have to think about, I have to do this tomorrow, I have to do this tomorrow. There's no need, like I want like 1 hour for just to outside of this. So that's how I started writing in Tamil, and I had like very good experience I got in Tamil Wikipedia. It was so inclusive community. There were like people from Sri Lanka, Malaysia. There were like a lot of people were there, and they were like selflessly writing hundreds and thousands of pages. So that's how I gained my Tamil Wikipedia thing. And I didn't write for science in Tamil for like I think last I wrote was 2010, and till last now I didn't write. And during the lockdown, I was at home, and then like everybody else, then I thought that I was at my native place in Tamil Nadu. I went there and I stuck there, and I got this newspaper, and then uh, there is no science information there, like it. And then I thought like maybe uh, I should write one, and then you know then first article I wrote was after a long time. It was about like uh, how this RT-PCR works. This whatever this we are telling, RT-PCR test, like why it is taking. Yeah, first I think in the initial in March, I think it takes like 3 days to get the results, and then like so I wrote about this, and the next day, like in 2-3 days, it got published. After the day, I got so much response. At least I got some 30-40 emails from different people that it was very nice, we could understand how this works, and like so many people called, and then like so then I thought, okay, wow, this is like so many, at least like 40 people read that and got informed. I don't know how many. So then I started writing continuously in Hindu Tamil. So that's what happened. So that kind of pushed me. I encourage all my students to write and keep this as one of the leisure thing. It's a good thing. Not only like you can write in any language which you are comfortable in. And also Vigyan Prashad started one Tamil newsletter. So I write there continuously, like almost every month I'm writing the like last 5-6 months. I'm writing there like some stories for kids and short stories and fact. Like so, so that's so I would recommend all students, everybody to better to communicate in your mother tongue. It will be uh, uh, you will think that how to write it, and like but nowadays like even Google, if you open Google Doc, and you can speak and it can type in your own mother tongue, so you don't have to worry about like where is the font, all those things. You can speak your opinion, you can just speak, and then see if it is publishable. Like if you can convert, if you can convey to somebody it's publishable, that's fine. Otherwise you can make your blog, or these days you have Facebook and Twitter, so you can put your as long as it is not hurting anybody's sentiment or anything, it's good to go.
Yeah, wow. I never knew that this auto transcription works in the local regional languages. That's a tip, man. I will definitely try it out. So, Google Translate can pick up even Malayalam and can type it in Malayalam. That's really amazing. That actually
Yeah,
saves a lot of time.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's
Like I
great.
write most of my Tamil articles by that, like it will not make full stop. So in the Google Doc or Google Word doc, in the input you can put like speech to text, and you select the language, it types, and then maybe a couple of times you have to read proof, but it
Yeah, I mean,
saves a lot
still
of your
can
time.
save it. Yeah. So yesterday I had a session on science communication neuroscience in TAFR. So I highlighted the same issue here. Two issues. One issue is that of course the students. You also said about the students writing in regional language. We have a plenty of students writing in regional language, but specialists like you and me, we are not writing. The specialists have got a kind of a mindset that once you are an established scientist, you should only publish it in a peer-reviewed journal with impact factor. Writing in this kind of popular science article is only for the students' sake. That mentality, I think, somehow we have to change. We have to get rid of it. And there is a
True.
famous psychological effect called Carl Sagan effect. So Sagan effect is something like, if you write popular science article, your peers, the established scientists, will recognize you as a mediocre scientist, because serious scientists will never write a popular science article. That is a kind of a group thing, which is very common. Even the US, I mean, when the Sagan was there, Sagan is a great science communicator, but he also tried his best to become thinner in Harvard University. He couldn't make it. And after later, he even applied so many grants from NSF, National Science Foundation, but it was overturned, all because of this mindset. So the experts should also write, but somehow that is actually kind of lacking. And another very important issue which I highlighted is about the regional language. For example, I grew up in Malayalam medium school in government school. So during those days also we had a great popular science books translated to Malayalam. So for example, Sagan's on Cosmos is available because Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad has brought up in Malayalam. But even today, if you look for Sagan's Cosmos in Hindi, no, it is not there. Not many people are really passionate on translating to the even Hindi. We really need good quality translators, because if the book is translated, like Cosmos, for example, if it's translated to Hindi, that's definitely going to inspire millions of Indians whose mother tongue is Hindi. So the translation, I think that's really important thing that I tell my students here in Punjab, Punjabi students who are mother tongue is in Punjabi, they should write. Even they can try to devote their time for translating some masterpiece books into Punjabi, which is completely non-existent here in Punjab. So I think that those issues are really important, and kudos for you to communicate in Tamil. I think it's a great, you are doing it in a great spirit.
Thanks.
Do you have any final word, final one message for all the young scientists of the country?
Persistence.
Okay.
Continuous, like I always tell, we have two Gandhis in front of us. Both were not equipped with many things, but both had only one thing: persistence. So, but that persistence brought them to come up. Either it is like Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi or Hemendra Kumar Prithviraj Gandhi. Yeah, that's persistence towards something is very important.
Fantastic. Over to Shruti, would you like to add some final thoughts or comments?
Yeah, it is really so informative, and time has gone. Didn't even realize that it's been already 1.5 hours. It was really quite informative thing. Really enjoyed your talk. It was very informative.
Thank you,
Thank
Shruti.
you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks Shruti, and thanks Karthik. Yeah, have a nice day. I will see you all at 4:30 for the next session, Scopes in Botany.
Thanks.